Welcome everybody to this month's podcast. Hard to believe this is month 7. We are still going strong. Glad everybody is following along. I don't have my producer here today, so congratulations to Isaac, who just had another baby girl. So because Verity Grace, his daughter, was born just the other day, I don't have a producer today. We're running solo. So you've got me here on the live webinar. I may or may not be doing some of the questions at the end, but feel free to fire them in. If I don't get to them at the end of the episode, I will get to them via email back to you. I'll definitely answer the questions, but may not be live here in the video if I'm not able to pull them up here and everything. But again, let's jump into it. Today's topic is going to be the great SaaS reckoning. So rent versus buy in an AI agentic world is what I'm talking about today. And we're going to dive right into it. So let's look at the financial situation and what's going on in the world of the agentic bots. So I'm going to predominantly be talking about the Claude Workspace is going to be a big one. Claude bot that became Maltbot that became OpenClaw is getting a lot of press, and it should. These are really big things. There are also a number of open models now that are running on local machines, and some of them coming out of Chinese sources, but they are getting a lot of power, a lot of functionality for a very low amount of money. But I want to take a second, and we're talking here to mid-sized companies predominantly. I want you to think about a number, $200,000 every month. That is what mid-sized companies today are spending on a lot of their software solutions, their accounting systems, their Salesforce, their CRMs, their marketing automation tools, all of these. And that's not including implementation and maintenance, but that's the ongoing licensing. And I've been talking about the consultants that go into this, but $200,000 a month. So let's take a look at that number and what you can do. So a lot of mid-sized companies are spending that or more, and that is something that you have to now be looking at. Can you take a couple of employees and these agentic bots and cover that? So is that something that you need to do? Is can you replace that with technology that is more bespoke and fitting what you guys need and everything? $200,000 a month to rent software from somebody else at somebody else's prices, and somebody else decides on the changes and the support and everything. So here's a question that people should be asking. What if a single person and the right AI tools could do it better in a couple of weeks? That is the big question. And I will tell you, the reality is that a lot of the SaaS companies operate at 80-90% gross margins. So it's really a commodity item and a lot of profit to it. 70% of that licensing goes to the enterprise, and only 30% of that goes back into R&D. So you're spending a lot of money to put those stock prices out there for a lot of these. And a lot of organizations have 3 to 5 vendors that they're paying significant amounts of monthly, SaaS licensing fees. I know we do as well, and it's something we're looking at. We have, in honesty, we dumped a couple of years ago Salesforce for using our own built CRM that better fits our needs and better fits the use cases. So let's land on the math isn't just about bashing, these vendors. It's about this power shift that's going on. And is your company going to be part of the groups that are making that power shift, or are you going to be the ones that hold out and keep using the legacy SaaS solutions while your competitors are shifting some of these costs and possibly getting a better product in the process of it? So I'm not going to tell you that SaaS is dead. That would be lazy. That would be wrong. So it is going to have to shift is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's going to be some big fundamental changes in the next 12 months. I think that the cost of creating this approach isn't zero. So you can't replace that $200,000 a month with zero, but you can bring that down significantly and potentially get a better product. So what we're seeing right now is a new class of builders are emerging. They're not just computer science grads who also have gone and spent years of programming. It are people that do what's called vibe coding, and that gets you a certain distance in it. When you pair that with a software architect and a DBA, you're talking about something that you're able to bring along. Now, traditional developers, our developers are using AI technologies to be able to be better developers, and we're coding at a very high level and building very complex systems, many times where we're exceeding the experience of what the AIs can do, because they, even the AI bots. But when you're talking about that initial building, that MVP and that initial iteration, that is something that these new generation, I'm talking about new as in like, we're watching it here just after the Super Bowl in February. We're talking about the technology that came out like 2-3 weeks ago. So this is stuff that is just now hitting, and that's a common thing. Is this space of the AI just keeps changing. So we're talking about the technology has just come out and what you're able to do with it. So what I'm going to say is that it's something you need to think about. I'm going to show you some of the technology out there. We're going to dive into a little bit of some of the connectors and things to think about. Should a vibe coder be put into your organization to build and prototype out this? They might be able to release a whole product that is usable by your company, or it at least gets you to a point where you're able to build what your specifications need to be and put you on the path to potentially of doing things better than what the SaaS is able to build. But let me show you what's actually happening in the market right now, and why 2026 is the year that SaaS either has to earn its seat or lose it. So the first thing I'm going to do, I just want to show and set the framework here. So let's take a quick look into Claude here, and I'm going to show you just some of the connectors. So what you're going to see here is that these connectors inside of my Claude are able to use what's called MCP. It's something we've been talking about now for months. But if you look at some of these, and it's funny, here's clinicalresearch.org, the government clinical research. I know a number of people in the CRO space. I built tech for the CRO space. It's kind of funny here that one of the things I had built was a way to ingest the data from this particular site. Now Claude can do that on its own and can keep up with it. So that's one of the things that it can do just natively now inside the Claude AI technology. Now you can now take this and use their Workforce product to automate what you do with that data. The reason why these type of connectors are important is when we talk about products like what's now called OpenClaw, 2 weeks ago called Claude Bot, not related to Claude AI. They had to change because Anthropic didn't like the name. But what happened is it earned thousands of GitHub stars. It went viral across X and Reddit. You had thousands of people, posting on their feeds about the mascot, the lobster mascots and all of that. But what you had happen with this is people over a weekend spent some money on tokens. It does have to use your Claude AI, your Open AI. It's an engine to work with the open technologies there via their API, and does burn the tokens, and it uses a lot of them. You may also hear us talk about an application framework called Cursor, very much the same. It's able to build these agents, but what the OpenClaw is able to do is take more and work more in a mode where it is completing in a quicker fashion. So a friend of mine was able to build a show producer. They do a podcast a lot like this. They were able to build a booking agent to contact people and get people on their podcast to be on it with them. So if you look here at a couple of segments here, what you'll notice is that this is not a super friendly interface, but it's also not a hard interface when you consider that so much of what we do in the code space is command line. But what you do is it connects to your WhatsApp, your Telegram, your calendar, your email, and executes autonomously. It manages inbox, it schedules meetings, it can spin up a sub-agent to handle multiple workflows. It has persistent memory, meaning that it remembers context across the days, across tasks, across conversations, and the tech community is going crazy over it because it has all of this type of robust functionality. So now that's a great thing. Now, let's look at the shift here from a technology standpoint. So if you think about it, let's also now think about the security implications. This is where it hits hard. Security is when these connectors are so easy to go in and connect up. Yes, I'm connecting it up to my Slack, my email. What type of activity is going to happen here without the human approval? So this is where I don't run this type of tech, especially when testing it outside of a virtual machine. So you're actually looking at my one of my virtual locations here. I don't plug in my AI unless I'm the one that wrote it in to be able to go through a lot of my documents. There will be times where I'll use an agent like this to work on some Excel files, but I'm very security conscious. So what you want to do is keep an eye on what this thing actually is doing. So you want to make sure that this is very much a security wake-up call in my mind, and you probably want to have your IT people and your CISO and everybody think about how you're going to give it access to the data, and what a product like OpenClaw in a mid-sized company or an enterprise is going to do from the security posture. So that's something you definitely want to bring in, but we're really at this agentic moment of, does the security way this way? Can we save the $200,000? Can we do it securely? Can we hook it up where we're running this local and we're running an LLM local? You've heard me talk about running LLMs. I kind of like running these type of tools in my sandbox and hooking it to my own LLMs, which are off-the-shelf ones that we're able to run, and keep everything very secure, especially when it's here in the infancy. This way, if the toddler falls, it's falling, but not getting scraped up. It's in a rubber room. So let's also take take a look at where we are with AI. Months and months ago, when we started this, most of AI was about a chatbot that answers questions. Today, it's about a chatbot that can answer questions about your data. And this is something we're building quite a bit, which is taking a whole bunch of enterprise data and being able to organize it and then put it into a chatbot to be able to help you find the data and get to the actual numbers and make sense. But now we're getting down to the point where the AI is not just answering the question. It's not just doing a small thing like setting a calendar reminder. It's actually able to communicate with people like a person. It's able to make outreach like a person, respond to a form request like a person, and be able to then put that into your CRM like a person. So we got to think about the implications of this from a security standpoint, from a personnel standpoint, and also from the competitive advantage, because you may not want to do this inside your organization today, but your competitors might be, and we got to think about that from a standpoint of keeping the bottom lines competitive. So when you're talking about a SaaS company in principle, you don't normally have the SaaS company creating versions of that give your competitor a competitive advantage. Now, not everybody is going to be using XYZ SaaS in your industry. I see that all the time. So in the construction space, everybody in the construction space is using Procore. So Procore is kind of a leveler of what they're using. They're using a Yardi system or a RealPage system for managing their billing and who's in what apartment or who the tenants are. Now you're going to have people with newer systems being built with these agentic systems and giving them much better of a competitive advantage. So are you going to be the ones that are going to be able to do that, or are you going to stay on the SaaS system? That's something that has to be thought out. I also, as I like to put these type of systems even in our test, I don't like to just let them go off and be solo. I want to be I'll put them in the pilot seat, but I'm going to be there to be able to take the controls if they start to do something wrong. And I ran, the OpenClaw bot for about 4.5 hours on my first go out, and it did some crazy great things. I plan to do another video showing some of that. But when you start building this team of AI agents and have them working on your behalf in the off hours, you got to think about what's keeping an eye on them to make sure that they don't do something like send out 100,000 blast email at 2 o'clock in the morning via text message and get you into trouble when you've given them access into all of the contact tools. So let's talk about where some of this is going. So single agents are definitely impressive, but what's going to really reshape the workforce is when we are running multiple agents in our organization. So right now in my org, a lot of it is predominantly one agent tied to one human, but I can very much, there are some days where it's not that, where it might be 3 agents tied to one human. Now, I think what we're going to end up having in my org, probably in the next 60, 90 days, is going to be some agents that are sitting out there running on their own without 100% human oversight. They'll be reporting in daily and reporting in on the Slack channels. But what's really going to reshape the reshape teams everywhere is when you've got these agents that are being deployed. Now, sometimes those are going to be ones that I see enterprises deploying them to the cloud, to big data centers, to third parties, to Azure, to those type of locations. And also, I think you're going to start seeing more people where they're doing a little bit what I do, which is trying to save the cost of the compute and the tokens and run some of the LLM locally, especially when you're talking about running repeatable processes where you don't need the latest, biggest model, agentic model. You need a reliable model. So that's where I think that you're going to see people putting a $5,000 box into an organization that is able to recoup. I know I have blown thousands of dollars worth of tokens. Sometimes you look at it and go, I can't believe I spent $2,000 on something we were building in token cost on that. That happens very frequently. It is one of those where when you are using digital technology like this, that sometimes it's a huge savings even at those costs. But when you can commoditize it and bring that down, that's where a company like us who build tech, we look at it as we're able to save not just the SaaS cost, but also the ongoing operating cost, because we're able to run the technology, manage the technology, and be able to do the LLM in a very predictable way. And I think that's something we're going to see more and more of the mid-tier and enterprise clients going to as well, where their IT departments will be putting NVIDIA Sparks into rack systems, into some offices to be able to do some of those type of systems. So my prediction, and this is also Gartner, so Gartner and I kind of agree on this one, that in 2026, we're going to see about 40% of the enterprise clients out there that are going to bring task-specific AI agents running these type of OpenClaw type of framework systems and running tasks on their own in 2026. So it is the type of thing that I think is going to keep growing and getting bigger. So what are you doing to do it? It's going to be the question. The thing that I will come across and keep beating, where we predominantly end up talking with our clients about and having the most discussion around, is going to be their data. So the debate can happen on when to do this and what's the right technology to do this. Start with your data, because I don't think there's as much value in having it read your emails and learn off of emails and learning off of calendar events. It depends on what your organization is. If that is valuable to you, what you want to do is figure out how you extract that and put that into long term. So you're not just going through and reading and scanning through an Exchange, O365 type of mailbox or a G Suite mailbox and scraping that data. You want to take those critical elements that are important out there, such as, I want to put into the LLM every conversation I had with this particular company. So I want to take my 400 client list, I want to take the emails and digest those emails of who was having that conversation. The CEO, oh, I'm tagging that into its own bucket. These are the C-suite conversations with that particular client. This is my CSR conversation. This is my SDR conversation, all around those particular communications with the client. I'm not going to weight those all the same. I'm going to use that data depending on where we're going to use it. So think about the data model here of what domain did it come from? Do you have the clearance to ingest that data and what you can do with that? And then take that data and feed into the knowledge bot, as well as the back-end knowledge about, you want to have a project plan of what you did for that client, or what that client buys from you, which is going to be its invoices, its contracts, the deliverables in a lot of cases. But I want to, have you think about the data side of it first, then come into the bot and the technology. Everybody else out there right now is buying the bot and then figure out what can we shove into it, and you're running full speed. You're putting some good data into it. You're not putting great data, because email data is not one of those things I'm very hot on having into the AIs. I get a lot of spam. I don't know about you. I also have a lot of conversations about a client on the quoting side that don't need to be in the full project plan. There's also a lot of pieces in there that I may want to go back and say, hey, what was my conversation about with this client? And that's a smart thing to do with it. But there's also a number of things where it is just useless content in there. So I think you don't want to give the value to useless data. Also, there's going to be a lot of data, and that's why when people are initially just going in and having it scrub through a bunch of people's mailboxes, you have a lot of back and forth that may be figuring out a solution for a client. And what you don't want to do is poison, and what you also don't want to train the AI off of bad old data. It's better to have it trained, today, because let's say you're in our business, the way we're going to engineer things today is going to be AI focused, whereas, yes, we're going to still bring our big data science into it, but we're going to use certain tools and not do it the same way as we did, months and months ago, even, in this space. It used to be years ago. Now it's months. But so I really want you to do something, a little different here. Instead of giving you my take immediately, and on what your company should be doing, I want to look at a couple perspectives on this, and that's the type of thing. If you are interested in this, hit me up on LinkedIn, hit me at sales@WTE. Let's talk about this. I'm happy to have a free consultation with you and look at what is reasonable for your organization. It may be, an uncomfortable conversation at this point. If you're behind, I had somebody reach out and goes, I saw your LinkedIn post, and go, the problem is, I'm behind. That is the problem. We got to get ahead, and we're behind. So I want to take that disruptor's view. We're not going to necessarily look at just an AI solution. It may be that SaaS is still the right solution for what you're doing, and it may be that there's a smart SaaS solution that is going to be better than how you're doing things today. We're also going to take a look at the governance and everything else around that. But let's look at a quick reality check, and let's talk the numbers about where this is going. I'm not going to throw, these are numbers that I'm tracking. Some of them may come from Gartner. Some of them are actually coming from some VCs. I don't want this to sound like a VC pitch, and don't put this in if you're a startup company, quote me on this. But a lot of the analysts that I'm looking at are projecting that the AI agent space, so these agentic AI agents, is a $450 billion industry in value creation. Meaning, because they're able to extract down some costs, do things efficiency for an organization, you can get that type of higher valuation. So if you're private equity backed, if you're venture backed, if you're trying to break into the space, you want to think a little bit like a startup, and how can we do this type of technology that, one, we're not burning a lot of the cash and hitting our bottom line there, but where can we also get this leveled up agentic functionality into our organization from the start? It used to be that you bought SaaS because of its quick deployment. Now, I think what you're going to have is these agentics, which are part SaaS, part open source, part your own data. I think what you're going to see, the adoption on them be very not overnight, but they're going to be very impactful. And that's why I'm going to say on this is it's going to have a much bigger impact. A chatbot on a website doesn't have a big impact. It might help you, with some customer service. It might frustrate some customers. An AI agent that is able to lift the task and do part of somebody's job with some oversight is definitely going to be better. Error rates, that is something that we can look at as well. Can it do something where eliminate error? If you're talking about an ER, there's a lot of places where you can have an AI agent overwatch and cut some errors. If you're looking at things, I've worked a lot with mental health. That's something where you can look at the EHR data. Again, use local LLM or something that's BAA'd that you can work there properly and do that. But the places that I have high confidence that you should be able to apply some use case and get the best results is going to be in these locations here. So internal reporting and dashboard creation should have a 60 to 80 time reduction. Customer service, document processing, sales workflows, CRM automations. I went conservative here with 30 to 50, but as you see, these organizations, these type of technologies in an organization should be able to drive a lot of good cost savings. But let me take a quick drink of coffee here. I think I also owe you the other side of this as well. And this is something that I've had some discussions one-on-one with people after doing some of these podcasts. Plenty of these AI agents projects are just simply going to fail. That's the reality. They're going to fail for the same reason that a lot of SaaS implementations fail. Since 2010, when SaaS has been growing like this, there has been a lot of companies who don't get the value out of off-the-shelf marketing automation, sales automation, CRM type systems, because they don't have a clear vision of what success looks like. That is definitely a hard thing to do in a lot of organizations. And when you don't have a good vision of what success looks like, it's hard to track how successful you are getting. The hype trap is definitely real in this space. It is very, very common right now. I have seen a friend's company took this technology and spun up a dozen agents across 6 different departments with no coordination, no measurement framework, no one asking actually really what do we want to have out of this. And that wasn't innovation. That was just actually last week. It was total chaos. It caused a site outage. It caused a bazillion trouble tickets to come into the help desk. It caused a couple clients to be upset. So some could say, yeah, sometimes some eggs are going to get broken, some shells are going to end up in the omelet. This was egg on face. So they went to it a little hard and are suffering from it. Now they're going to recover. They really probably should have launched 2 agents, not 12. So they had the capacity to launch up to 12, and they were very micro focused. So what you probably need to look at is exactly what is a smart thing to be replacing in the SaaS space. What is going to be the most impact? What does success look like across the first 90 days? Let's define it and make it so we can measure it. And go for those things that we can get measurement on. And also, let's put that SME in place of who owns the outcome. Not the technology. The SME shouldn't be the technology. There are people who are spinning up agents and having them project manage themselves. That's kind of silly. But look at the business outcomes. Name the person, the SME that's going to be in charge of this, and give them the authority and the accountability of what the agent does. And if they're going, well, I can't tell, work on the logging. Logging. So good data in, better data out. Bad data in, we know what the rest of that statement is. So you don't want to do the actions that are going to cause you to be part of that percentage that fail in 2026. I'm hoping if you're watching this that you're going to be one of the people that are going, I don't want to mess up. I want to make sure that we are having a better shot than average at getting our agentic agents up, running, and providing return on investment for our organization, as well as making sure that it's an easy process for the employees inside of the business. So, you know, the other thing I would do is audit your SaaS stack. So let's take and look at, let's be ruthless at this and audit what is it able to do for us and what pains is it causing. If you got two areas of major pain in a SaaS product, then you might want to consider doing this. And I know for a lot of organizations, getting the data into the SaaS product is one of those big ones. Let's deploy an agent that's got some clear metrics. And let's not deploy it on the CEO or CFO's computer. If you're a small company, yeah, that's going to make some sense and you're going to do that. But let's look at where we can deploy this and look at some employees that don't have as much touch to the public and don't have the, are not putting together the board deck for the investors. Let's look at some AI agents that are able to take the people that are dealing with a lot of spreadsheets. I like to focus on how can I automate a spreadsheet? Is it the data that's going into it? Is it? I hear so many people, I get to this data via pivot table, and people who should not know how to be doing pivot tables are doing pivot tables. Why is that a problem? Because you're using stale data in most cases. You want to have that data flow from those systems into a data warehouse, into what you call a lakehouse, which is a live data, and then have your agentic solutions tag onto that or the data warehouse. But either way, you want to put it into the data. If you're feeding Excel spreadsheets into your agentic solution, you're not doing it the right way. That is a great Band-Aid, but that is not a long-term solution, and you really got to watch because as it makes it easier to take the data from Excel sheet 1, Excel sheet 2, throw them in there, your accountability gets worse. And you could actually have some line items that end up missing, deleted, malformatted, and skipped. And boy, we looked at a solution for a company that said, well, we have this agentic dashboard. The only problem is it's $4 million off. And I was like, well, it looks pretty, but yes, it's missing 40% of your revenue. That might be a problem. We need to fix that. That was not one that we had coded. It was one that they had gotten an off-the-shelf piece of software. We're running it and trying to get it to work, and it didn't have the right criteria for their business case. Their e-com business is a little different than others, and that's going to cause a problem. So again, that's where having a solution architect that's going to data model things and look at what we want to have the agents do is going to be better and more important. So, that's how I would go at it. So, I want to thank everybody for coming and watching on here tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for checking this out and be sure to watch the other episodes. I want to, take just a second before closing your laptop and going to dinner and ask a couple questions of you. This is normally where I'd open up the questions and answer, but my producer's not here, so I'm throwing a couple different wrinkles here. So I want you to answer these as homework, and feel free to send them to me, but if not, just put them down into your own notes. But it's operators and companies. I want you to think about this. Question 1. What is your actual monthly SaaS spend all in? So that is going to be what you're spending on the licensing, what you're spending on consultants, what you're spending on the maintenance of it. The second question is going to be which 3 tools in your tech stack could use an AI agent to replace it tomorrow. I'm not saying we're going to do, you should replace it tomorrow with it, but if you had a magic wand and could say, I want to make it happen tomorrow, what 3 pieces would we do with that? And when, the third question is, when was the last time you actually proactively talked to your SaaS vendors and asked them what they're doing to help you reduce your costs? And a lot of these solutions love to think about how they're going to add more to the bottom line, but now they're getting more commodity. So your stance is getting a little stronger now in the space. So think about what you can do to, potentially either unplug that is one option. Maybe it's a renegotiation and say, hey, we're not getting our return on investment here. We need you to come down a little bit on the cost. Thank you so much, everybody, for staying on here tonight with me and walking through this series. If you guys have any input that you want to give, I love it when we hear from people a couple of days later about what they wish I covered in a topic or what they'd like for the next ones. That is actually where the previous episode came from. Episode 6 came from input from people that watch it. I appreciate everybody who's on here and watch it and give us some feedback, and look forward to seeing you guys in about another 30 days. Thanks.